Well, here we are, people. And there is good news, everyone. And there's also some bad news, too. And the bad news is that I just watched the first episode of Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime. Well, friends, feel free to check it out if you want, but there won't be a second episode in the works for me. No. I looked at the reviews as well here just a moment ago, and they're pretty negative. So I don't know if you guys have ever either seen the books or whatever, but if I was going to say, what did they do wrong on this show? It's visually great. I mean, it's obviously a very sharp production. And, but boy, oh boy, the writing is just awful. Just awful. I mean, not only did we have multiple scenes where Valerie and I both were like, yeah, we totally predicted what was going to happen next and what the next line of dialogue would be and whatnot. And but it commits what is for me the cardinal sin that you can commit in writing fantasy, which is it's just replete with terminology. Like there's this one girl says this line. I think she said, "There's Trollocs in the fine," or something like that. It's like Trollocs in the fine, and we must become a wisdom, and if we speak with the right kind of British accent, everything seems dramatic, and everyone seems to be in on the inside information that they never let the audience really understand. And every conversation, instead of being like a normal dialogue, "Hey, Nugget," or "Nut." I mean Nugget. Instead of the dialogue being normal, just, it doesn't matter the time, the place, the planet. It doesn't matter. The way that people interact isn't replete with backstory that they all sort of know, so that backstory is force-fed into all their conversations. It's terrible. Terrible. So yeah, Wheel of Time didn't work for me, and frankly, the books didn't either. I mean, back in the day, I tried reading some of the books, and it was the same problem. The same problem that you do see with badly written fantasy. So I don't know what the attraction is of how the book series has been successful, because I couldn't get very far in it personally. But yeah, the show is not an improvement. So I have my martini, and here's where we're at tonight. I did this shot today, and actually just posted on the channel a speed paint of this shot with a little bit of the shot that leads into it. Pretty happy with how it turned out. The black shadows there are because of the plastic tool, so that can't be avoided, unfortunately. Hey Maria, hi all, wrapping up work for the day and can finally join for a few minutes. Yes, and don't feel like you have to stay extra long or anything. Okay, so what are we doing today? Well, if we go back over here, this is the shot I just did and that I just showed you guys. And in fact, I actually took this shot and already split it in half. So we've got the wide shot of Tianara, and then the close-up. And what we need to do is this shot's probably going to get thrown out, get cut out of the show. So we basically need... So what happens is he hears the blind man. "Alms for the blind, alms for the blind," or something of that nature. And that catches Tianara's attention. Then we need to see the blind beggar. And then she reacts. We'll cut this shot out of the show. He says something to Tianara, and we see her approach. Now, it could be actually... Now that I'm looking at this, it could be that these two shots should be reversed as well. We should probably see her approach him, and then we get the line of dialogue from the beggar. That would probably make more sense. And then when we get to these shots, we're probably going to be doing some little bit of the fix-up kind of stuff on the hey Darren, a little bit of fixing up on the characterization. But basically, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far here in Webisode 2 as it unfolds. And so what we're doing is just going through and just kind of fixing things. And by the way, I wanted to mention a little technique here that one might find useful with Tahoma 2D. In my case, I created this background using vectors here in Tahoma 2D. If you ever get a situation where, like in this case, I rendered this all out and cut it into the show, okay? Well, what I could do, actually, is extend the background another frame. Although in this case, to be fair, what I really would want to do is change the sizing back to this. But what you can do is re-render and add an extra frame, and then you have this frame of the background. I could bring that into Krita, do some painting, or actually right here in Tahoma, but take the ping file, do some painting over top of it, and then just copy it back into the shot and re-render if I wanted to go ahead and add some more details, on this background. And arguably, there's a decent case to be made for the idea that there actually should be a couple other characters in this shot standing around. So, anyway, just a thought. So, what are we going to do today? Well, we're going to do the blind man, and I did kind of block it in on paper, basically just a pose. So what I'm going to do is, this is going to be, well, interestingly, I had an interaction with someone who I think I encountered on Facebook, pretty good animator, who knows, maybe he'll subscribe, but and if he does, if he shows up here, I'm going to recommend his channel, because I can't remember what it is offhand, but if he shows up, then I will obviously then remember what his YouTube channel is. But I'm going to discard the changes. Well, okay, I think what it's reacting to is this. So I guess just to be safe, we'll save all our work. Save all. And we'll start clean. Anyway, this encounter with this animator who's using a program called, I think it's called Rough Animator or something like that, which he said for doing like cleanup and stuff is like a pretty good program. I don't think it's a free program, but we were talking a little bit about the learning curve with Tahoma, which one must concede is a thing. So anyway, I actually considered making the live stream today an attempt at sort of a deep dive. I'm sorry, wrong, opposite, not a deep dive. A gentle introduction to Tahoma 2D. So maybe I'll kind of try to do that in the process of just knocking out this shot. But we'll see. I'm not going to officially call this a gentle introduction, but I did mention to him, Darren, your channel, because I know you've got your Udemy course on OpenTunes, and so in other words, the rationale for Rough Animator is that it's a really, really easy program to get into and use, whereas the learning curve on like Tahoma 2D is, maybe a little more punitive for some people. So anyway, let's start with a pencil. Pencils are what we like to start with. And so B key for the pencil. And it sounds to me like, for whatever reason, Zuko is being a little more chirpy in the background than he used to be. Little late stream. Well, yeah. I mean, today was a day where I had to give. I've mentioned a few times that I usually give the show about an hour or two a day, right? Well, and today was a day where I really needed to give most of my work time to my commercial clients, the people that pay the bills. And so that's kind of the story about that. So on my other screen, I'm getting myself a close-up of the blind guy so I can kind of see what he looks like. Whoops. Okay, I just made a mistake. I pressed a hotkey that makes sense if you're on Tahoma, but doesn't make sense if you're in Vegas. And so I was on the wrong screen and then hit a hotkey. So let's get Tahoma's attention and get to it here. Okay, so basically we just need to block in the the blind fella. So anyway, apologies for the chirping in the background. There's not a lot I can do about that. If Zuko's sort of feeling vocal today, for those who don't know, Zuko is an African gray parrot. How you doing over there, Zuko? You doing all right, buddy? And usually he's pretty quiet when I'm live streaming. It's almost like he kind of knows what's going on and he's polite about it. But today he seems to be vocalizing a bit more. So, anyway, let's get this guy drawn. For most of us, this is probably the most fun part of what we do, right? Is just drawing. So this guy, basically his eyes are, the eyes of a blind man. Okay, and it's always a good idea to flip your canvas from time to time so you see where things are getting out of balance. And so yeah, to answer your question, Amar, because I really needed to do some commercial work today, I didn't really get around to. Now, and to be fair, I actually gave a little bit of time to creating the speed paint that I posted today. I kind of wanted to see, all right, how long does it really take me to post that? And then I added a comment to the video saying, hey, if you guys want to see more of this type of content, let me know. And one person did chime in with that very opinion. So we'll see. I may do more of that kind of stuff. It's really, that's certainly content that's very much just for the YouTube, subscribers, because I don't really get too much out of it, but it can be inspiring, certainly, to watch a speed paint. So anyway, all right, so this guy's looking pretty good. He's looking about right. Let's go hit the N key to go to normal size, and tell you what, let's deal with render stuff right now. Okay, so we are on shot number 190. Well, we're between 191 and 191. So let's call this 191B, or I'm sorry, 091B. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go File, and let's just save all right now, so we get ourselves off on the right foot. And we're going to have to create a folder. And it's going to be 091-B. Okay. And now it looks like we are in that folder. And I actually have to go up because the scene should be saved here. So 091-B.tnz. Okay, that takes care of that. And so, alright, so as far as this guy's, the scene settings need to include enable column color filter and transparency for rendering, so that we can deal with shadows by turning the opacity of levels down. And in our output settings, we want to go, actually, you know what, we can do it this way. We can just type it in. So plus scenes /091-B/render, and by doing it this way, Tahoma will create that folder for me, the render folder, and then we'll make these JPEGs. And unfortunately, we need to save and render, which it's only going to render one frame, because if we cancel out of this dialog, we'll lose the settings we just put in. So, kind of silly, but there it is. So, nice and warm in here. Toasty, yep. Well, Amar's got, hopefully he's toasty in Chicago, and Maria's toasty in Brooklyn. Alright, and now we'll save all so that the settings are saved. So now we can get back to the fun stuff, like drawing. Okay. And here we go. Let's see. I'm looking over my left shoulder at my pencil sketch where I kind of blocked in this guy. And I would say we want to kind of move him around a little bit and probably shrink him down. Let me think about this for half a second. Let's go back over here to the show. Let's think about our staging here. Mel looks over there, and there's Tianara. Presumably, the blind guy is off here to the left. So it seems to me that it would make more sense to put this guy off to the left like this, and maybe it would even be worth considering. I'm doing a lot of kind of funky staging here. Not funky, but, well, here's my point. Since we're kind of overusing the over-the-shoulder technique here, it probably, since she looks over, it wouldn't be ridiculous to actually do a silhouette of her. Why not? Let's just do it. It's not, there's no harm, no foul here, right? So you'll notice, guys, that my actual frames are HD, but my camera is broadcast HD, so hence you get a little bit of crop range in your shots. Okay. So gotta jump over to my reference. Actually going to look at the crummy shot that I'm going to delete out of the show. I'm actually using as a reference because I do need to keep his costuming and whatnot consistent. So his little toesies are sticking out there, and his little knees are here. And this is one of those cases of work from the known to the unknown. I know I can feel where I want his hands to be, right? So his hands are like kind of like this, and I just did a really bad job of drawing that. Let me try that again. So actually I'll just draw a shape to start, okay, and then Control C, Control V, over here I would say a little more of an angle like that. Okay, so yeah, that looks about right. Okay, so his sleeves will sort of get lost here in the maelstrom of cloth that exists. So he's just basically saying alms for the blind. He's begging. So that's what's going on there. Well, a lot of chat going on. I haven't seen your owls. I'll have to look for that. Owltober. The Chopin waltz animation I'm working on. Now, Maria. Okay, I might be having a stupid attack here. Let me just check this. Now you have. This might explain. On Discord, the message was, I take you at your word, regarding, so that's you. Ma Elena is you, Maria? Is that you? I didn't realize that was you. I didn't know I was interacting with you. I always thought that was someone else. Okay. So, like I said, stupid attack on my part. So here I am, talking with you about your animation, and I didn't even realize I was talking to you. How embarrassing. Ma Elena is me. Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad to know that. Anyway, when you said I take you at your word, I thought whoever this is kind of interacting like they know me, right? So that explains a lot. Anyway, yeah, it's a good start. I mean, obviously I just released a 4-minute animation, and you know how much work it can be, but that's an ambitious goal for sure. That is an ambitious goal. But you just rock and roll. You'll do her. You'll do it. Okay. Alright, now let's think about this. First of all, I really want to be a little bit picky here. Yeah, I don't like that at all. That was a bad choice. I think I'm going to flip this so I can draw this as if it was a right hand. Okay, that's probably better, but the thing I'm noticing is it seems to me that the hands are a little bit large. This one maybe not quite as much as the other, but okay. Alright. B key. Let's see. Now, in the old drawing, the guy's legs were crossed actually the opposite way, but it looks like that's the shot we're cutting. Yeah, I don't think we ever do see... I'm over here. I don't think we ever actually see the guy's feet. And if we do, it's not until quite a bit later. Okay, so now there's a shot of the guy that's going to have to be redone. Well, not really redone, but the color of his garment is wrong. That's a little embarrassing, isn't it? Hate when that happens. Right? Can you believe it? Like, for me to have inconsistencies in costuming, like that never happens, right? Yuck, 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 yuck. Okay, so let's just say he's going to move his mouth, but I think his hand should maybe move a little bit. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a little cheat trick here that I've been kind of using repeatedly. And the cheat is to do this. It's kind of like what you do in Credo when you cut and paste. When you cut and paste, it immediately creates a new layer. So this is kind of the same concept. Make a duplicate so that you can then actually put them side by side. So they're in the same level, but we're using one of them for the hands and the other for the body. Okay, so he's just going to have some dialogue. And let's see. If he said, let's go ahead and stretch this out to maybe 3 seconds. Okay. So let's say he says, "Homes for the blind." Okay. So let's just keep it simple and kind of symmetrical. We'll keep it a nice, neat, and tidy 4 seconds. Okay? So based on that, what I'm feeling here, let's see. Homes for the blind. So yeah, we'll just do it here on frame 13. So I'm thinking here what we'll do is make another duplicate. And here I'm going to reverse. Okay, really? I'm hitting the S key. There we go. I'm going to reverse his head so he kind of looks the other way. Alright, so this is going to be horizontal, -100. Boom. Okay. So I'm kind of trying to find a balance here between, you know, it's fun to draw, but at the same time, you know, use the digital tools if you can. So I'm going to say let's make a dupe here. And then let's move this up and out a bit. We'll move them out. And I'm going to do that again. Out and down a bit. S. Out. And now it probably goes without saying that his upper arms need to react accordingly. Okay, right? So let me smack these down to here, and then we'll go ahead and just draw in. So if this is here, we'll say we'll put this here. Like that, like that, like that. So there's no need to add a lot of curvature and, you know, stuff just to do it. Okay, now that is a jolt. Okay, so that's bad. So I'm gonna say the hands, all the communication seems to be happening in the hands. So for me, if the head turn happened here, so in other words, if it was like this is like too much of a good thing. Maybe not, actually. Okay, so I was wrong. It works if they happen together. And in a way, this is kind of funny because at 8 frames per second, the movement of the hands is actually masking the crude simplicity of the turn of the head. So it's either that or put it down here and have a tween. So let's see. Homes for the blind? That's not too bad either. So then if we're going to do that, we would want to put a dupe here and give him another head. And so this is actually a great example of animation pragmatism in action. Because the question I really have to be asking myself is, how much does this tween right here help the storytelling? Because if it doesn't help, if it's not like palpably an improvement, then I'm giving myself a whole nother frame to ink and paint for no good reason. So, you know, to me, that's kind of a big deal, actually. But we'll carry on because it's fun to draw. So I'm going to do a straight tween. Meaning, we have an arc here, so there's the tip of his beard. We have an arc here. Well, not much of an arc. His mouth's going to go like that. His nose is going to kind of scoop around like that. There's his mustache. We can definitely see his eyes. Now this is only on the screen for 1 frame too, so we don't have to knock ourselves out on the detail. You're not going to see it. It's going to go by real fast. So let's just block this in. And then if you're dying to do tons of animation, you can always do some secondary animation of his beard. You know, like after he stops moving, his beard kind of flaps in the wind. But normally, on a show like this where we're doing the volume of work I'm doing, I'm not going to be doing too much of that. Now, to be fair, I did on the last shot. I actually went in and did secondary animation on Tianara's necklace. So it did exactly what I just said. It basically swung in the wind a bit. So there's a time for that, for sure. And it was cheap to do. You know, it took like 5 minutes to just kind of draw a necklace in there. And so obviously quality is job one, but at the same time you want to be pragmatic. So these decisions to give yourselves more drawings to do, it's not good or bad. It's just a matter of, well, okay, how much, like, is the storytelling that much better if I do it? I think about these things because everything translates into ink and paint. And that's where all the time goes, as I often say. So, homes for the blind. Okay. So this is a great case. Now, we could argue that because I drew it kind of boldly and simply, that this stands out a bit. But at the same time, let's just zoom out and look at the way it's like. Okay, I could see it both ways, actually. If you're going to do this, it would kind of make sense to actually have him look back again. Okay? So we're just toying around with storytelling here. Homes for the blind. Okay, this is wrong, obviously. This should be shot number 1. So let's make that, hit the Q key to toggle back to that shot. Drag that down, and then we'll just delete these. Okay? So the argument we're having with ourselves is whether this is actually better storytelling, and I'm going to tighten up this little transition here, by the way, than it would be to actually have a jolting turn of the head that's sort of masked by the hand movement. My suspicion is that the simpler way is actually better. Homes for the blind. Okay, that's not bad. However, at the same time, let's go, let's do it this way. Let's just smack this drawing in here, right here, just so we can see what it feels like. So if he goes, homes for the blind. Okay, that didn't work, because obviously this stuff has to be deleted for now. Okay, so you have to pretend, because obviously once we get to here, that's not I don't want, well, I guess I could hit Alt down arrow and go like this. Okay, so that lets me at least test this. Okay, so if we do that, you've got a shot here, boom, gone, done. So that would be like an 18 to 24 frame shot, like 2 to 3 seconds. All right? Whereas, if we do it the other way, and I'm going to let you guys take a vote here. So, get ready to vote. Okay? So the other way, you have a longer shot where he says, alms for the blind, and then he looks both ways. Which one's better? Which one you like better? I like how the perception goes from Mel to Tianara to the blind man. Yeah, it's a staging thing. So I trust you guys were paying attention. What do you like better? Do you like the longer version of the shot where he looks both ways after he moves his hands? Or do you like the shorter version where he just turns his head and we save ourselves having to make the tween, and it's a little tighter storytelling? Anybody got an opinion? If I had to call it, you put a gun to my head and you say, Dave, you got to decide right now. I'm thinking I would go with the short version. So, well, nobody's weighing in with an opinion. And frankly, I don't really have to decide before getting into ink and paint. So, for that reason, I will just carry forth. Okay? You like the short version too. Okay. Let's do that. Let's just do the short version. So this tween turns out to have not been necessary. So the way that looks is we go Control X and just get rid of all this stuff. So I'm going to hit Alt A, get this down to about 20 frames. I guess I'll give it 24 so there's sort of a little bit of a leader at the beginning and the end. And then we'll delete all this stuff. Delete. And that's, I tend to agree with Maria. I think that is the stronger shot. Alms for the blind. That's it. And then you're out. Get out of there. You don't need to languish on the shot, right? This isn't an amazing work of art. I'd like to think that it is, but it's just, it's just one tiny shot in the cartoon. Okay. Usually when my instincts tell me that more concise storytelling that actually, luckily enough, results in less work, it's like editing. It's like editing a show. 9 times out of 10, the tighter edit actually plays better. So, but as creative people creating animation and stuff, we kind of want to see things move. and we have this sort of dialogue going on with ourselves where we're sort of trying to impress ourselves all the time. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing that can work against us in terms of actually doing the best possible storytelling. And the thing is, the audience doesn't give a rip about the animation. They literally don't care. Not at all. The only thing the audience cares about is, do these characters engage, my attention and or obviously ultimately sympathy or whatever. So, let's go with that. Now, whether I put his forearms actually on a separate level, I probably won't. I'll probably go ahead and actually do 3 shots. But it's all good. Okay. Question Dave Nagut. Coming to the end of an episode are... Question Dave. Coming to the end of an episode are... I guess you're still typing. So, I'm going to sneeze here in half a second, by the way. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Not much. It's weird because someone asked me a similar question yesterday. I would say no. I'll kind of say in a more concise way what I said yesterday. Generally with writing, I know what I'm doing, right? And so you don't see big story changes. What you do see is what you see right here, where there's just a minor editing change that just makes the storytelling zip along a little bit better. And that slight change in the editing might call for another slight change in the dialogue. But no, I would say, as far as the idea that I think you're alluding to, which is that the story itself evolves through the either the editing or the ink and paint process, or animation process, I should say. I would say not much. Usually what happens is I write a screenplay, and then from the screenplay I create a storyboard. So for me, because I've written a lot of screenplays, normally by the time I write the screenplay, I pretty much know what I've got. I have a good sense of what the pacing's going to be, and I would say a pretty good sense of whether it's working or not. So the changes that happen at the editing stage are pretty minor. What I am getting a fair amount of is just redoing shots to improve the animation work, or in this case, the staging. But improving the staging didn't really affect the editing or dialogue or story flow much at all. So let's see, go back to, okay, we are pretty zoomed in here. Okay. Oh, I didn't like that. I didn't really draw that well. This tippy top is, yeah, the curvature was a little off. Okay, let me just zip in here so I can get control of it. There we go. Okay, that's what I was looking for. See you, Darren. Huh. I think it's cool you guys are chatting amongst yourselves. I pretty much have no idea what you guys are talking about, so that's a good thing. You guys enjoy the chat and hopefully the stream as well, but basically I'll just stay focused on doing my job. Doing my job here. I'm actually liking ink and paint more than I used to. I used to sort of begrudge it because of the time it took, but the more I sort of embrace this, I don't know, I relate it to Alex Toth style drawing. The inking process actually is kind of a fun drawing or creative process on its own. I'm assuming we probably want 2 straps. Zuko, why are you chirping over there, you goof nut? You are being a goof nut. Okay, for me I have the hotkey, which is actually a default in OpenTunes, but I don't think it is in Tahoma, but the hotkey is Control-Shift-F, which turns on the fill check, and as you can see, we got leaks all over the place. Now if you leave it on, you can go like that and it'll close up the shapes and you'll discover where your leaks were. So there you go. Now because it's not anti-aliased, it can be hard to ink with the fill check turned on, but if you're comfortable with that, then it can be useful to just leave it on, actually. So boom. Alright, let me see what that looks like. Actually pretty accurate to what I drew. Not bad. Yep, this is the Animation Truman Show. I probably should be reminding everybody to like and subscribe like all good YouTubers do. Tahoma has the lock alpha feature. Do I do much life drawing? Are you asking me that, Nagut 40? Yeah, the paintings I'm actually working on right now, a portrait of my son and his wife, and that's taking a lot longer than my paintings normally do because I'm determined not to be happy with it until it is really captures them, you know. But if we come over here, this is actually a knockoff. This is a Frazetta knockoff. But we'll just do the quick and dirty show-off thing here. If we scan through these paintings, we got some. There's an owl talking. Speaking of owls, chimpanzee. That's acrylic. That I believe was gouache. Actually, that's a spotted, or what kind of leopard is that? I forget what it's called. Morgan Freeman. Speaking of Morgan Freeman, there he is. Little Robin Williams, little Faye Dunaway. I don't know who that is, but that's a watercolor. That's an actual watercolor. That was supposed to be Celine Dion, but it didn't quite work. That's me looking depressed. That's me digitally modified. Another watercolor. That's what's her face? Barack Obama's wife, Michelle. That's actually my biological father right there. That's a caricature of my biological father. There's Biden, and in the interest of being politically balanced, that's a painting I did for my son. You will see that there's also a Trump. So watercolor there. That's a still life I did for my mother. Yada yada yada. So there you go. So that's some other things I do. You know. So yeah, paint from life. Usually what I do is when I'm feeling like painting. Now that's just time to unwind, right? So what I'll typically do is just find a photo online and just start and just do a painting. And so usually, it's actually funny because my son asked me how long it took. And he's thinking it takes, a couple weeks or whatever to do a painting. I'm like, yeah, normally once I find a picture and know what I'm going to do, it usually takes about 3 hours. And he just like totally, this is the son from New York, by the way, Maria, I'm talking about. But he busts out laughing because it's true. Now, in the case of the painting of him and his wife, I got to tell you, it's a painting that right now in its current state, you would look at it and you go, wow, that's pretty good. That's what you'd say. But the problem is it's a good painting, but it's not a good likeness. And when you're dealing with portraiture, it's got to be a good likeness. It's got to be an accurate likeness. So it's one of those cases where I really have to, some of you guys were here yesterday when I was sort of counseling. In the last 15 minutes or so of the live stream, I was giving some advice to whatever his name is, Asnyan Goswami or whatever is, I don't remember his name exactly because it's hard. Foreign names are hard to remember, right? But anyway, interestingly, the lesson that I was trying to really get him to grab is exactly the same lesson I had to face later that night when I was working on this painting with my son and his wife, where I'm going, okay, the universe is giving me a clear choice here. And it's the same choice you see me facing when I redo parts of this show. And the basic choice is this. In your heart, if it's up to the level that it should be. And you've got a certain amount of time and energy into it. There's a real temptation to what I call polishing a turd, where you take something, it's not quite there, but if I go in and paint some more and add some detail and you really punch it up even more, it'll be even better. And what happens is you wind up improving something that's really broken out of the gate, right? And this is when you wind up with a painting that's a good painting, but it's a crappy likeness. And it's not acceptable. So now you have a choice to make. Are you going to say, okay, all right, fine, I get it. The universe is giving me that little test where it says, look, you say you want to paint and you want to do it well. Are you gonna do it well? Or are you gonna go halfway and then either quit or go work on something else? What are you gonna do? It's okay. Either way, you can do whatever you want. It's your life, your choice. It's all good. But if you want to if you want to honor your original intention, then you probably have to do the painful thing, which is back up a little bit, backpedal a bit, and fix some things. Okay, so in this case, what I need to do is hit the D key, and this is actually another good example where it might have turned out that doing the paint first would have not been a horrible idea, because then you could just cut these pieces and move them, and you really wouldn't have to worry about the you just have to fill in the gap. That type of thing's really easy to do in Krita. Little tougher in Tahoma. It's one of the reasons I like Krita, actually, is that it's so easy to repurpose elements and just instantly cut and paste them into another layer or whatever. It's probably not very clear what I'm trying to say. Let's see, I'm hitting the B key. I better save my work, because I'm hitting the B key and drawing and nothing's happening. So I'm just wondering if Tahoma's getting ready to. The energy. Yeah, one thing I've noticed with portraiture in particular, I don't know why. I must have hit the 0 key, and that's why I was on color 0. Okay, so one thing I've noticed with portraiture that's really cool, actually, if I can really get a hold of it and master it, is that forcing myself to not get into detail and really use a big brush. So that what happens is you wind up just drawing a single stroke that's a contour, usually in contrary direction to the contour that you're trying to paint. I don't know if that makes sense. So it'd be like if you were trying to paint along this edge here, the stroke of the brush would actually go this way, is what I find tends to happen. But when you use a big brush, you have to be really thoughtful about the stroke you're about to put down. You know, are you really sure this is the stroke you want to place? And the very best portrait painters like John Howard Sandon, or obviously, I forget the guy's name. His name's escaping me now. Who's the portrait painter that Singer Sargent. So he was a portrait painter back in the like 1800s. I don't know if he lived into the 1900s. But he's the guy that everyone looks at as being like the great portrait artist who really was able to paint in a slightly impressionistic way, with very bold but broad brush strokes. So it never looked photoreal. And I would argue that you really don't want it to. You know, you're not going for photoreal. You're going for, like you're describing with the bust, where the energy of those strokes make you, as the viewer of the painting, you become a participant, because your mind fills in what the painter did not paint. So you suggest things, right? And you suggest things with the paint, and the viewer's imagination does its part. It's a really amazingly beautiful, cool thing if you can pull it off. I don't consider myself particularly good at it, frankly. But looks to me like the value of his beard is slightly higher than the value of his skin. So I'm just going to kind of go with something like that. Okay, so he's got sort of a... It's really a tan color. I'm just gonna throw a color in here that feels kind of close, and then I'll touch it up after a bit. So this needs to have less saturation. As you can see, the color for his garment is not that far from the color of his skin, actually. Okay. Alright, now we need to make a couple judicious choices. Oh wait, we need his hat as well. He's got the very muted colored red. So it's red, but it's pretty dark. And something like that. Okay. Fill. Okay. In the earlier version of this, there was basically a color like this for the blind eyes. So I may change that color. Fortunately, with Tahoma, we can change the color after the fact. Okay, so now what I want to do is let's see, these two poses are the same on the face. So what I'm going to do, probably should do what I said. I'm going to go ahead and put a line right here so that the border, so the beard has a border. Okay? Great. Now I can put in the flesh tone, and then he's got basically eyebrows that are the same color as the beard. And now what I'll be able to do is, well, I should say, reuse the head. Yeah, I really could. So how are you going to do that? Well, the first thing I need to do is put in the whites of his eyes. So let's get that done first before I get ahead of myself. Okay, and so here's the whites of his eyes. I'm going to hit the V key, and I'm going to put this on areas so I can just hand paint this in, like so. Okay? So the Smart Raster paintbrush tool is what you use sometimes for just sort of fixing up these little flaws that the fill tool didn't quite catch. Not a problem. So we'll paint that in. We could catch this one right here. We could catch this one right here. Okay, so that looks correct. So now what I'm going to do is hit this. I'm going to go ahead and just select this whole thing. Control C. And then if you can believe it, I'm going to actually just erase. Oh wait, I don't want it to be selective. So I'm going to hit erase. If it's on selective, it's only going to erase the color that's currently selected in the palette. So I'm going to delete that head. I'm just saving myself some time here on the painting process. So now if I hit the S key and hit Control V, and before I touch anything else, I'm going to go up here and hit minus on the horizontal. There it is. Okay, and then I'm going to hit Control C so that I can then paste it in here as well. So there I just saved myself some time on my ink and paint by not having to paint the face 3 times. Okie dokie. I'm sure you all approve. So fill tool, fill tool, fill, 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 fill. Whoops, I missed that. Next. Boom, 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 and boom. And it looks like I missed a finger. Did I miss it here? Yep, I did. Boom, boop, bitty, boop, boo, boop, bitty, boop, boo. Bam. Okay, and by the way, I'm probably going to wrap up after, let's see, I've been going for an hour. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to get the paint done, and then I'll leave this fluid. I may change my mind, but I'm thinking I probably will bail on you guys after I get the color done, which I kind of just finished it, didn't I? We need to get these straps as well. So I'm going to hit the F key for the fill tool, but I'm going to use freehand mode. Okay? So that means I can go in here and actually just draw a lasso around this, and it should fill it pretty much perfectly. I've got a little hiccup right there that we can just zoom, zoom, and zoom. Okay, so this is the part where somebody makes a comment about why don't you use multi-frame filling, and the answer is I've done it, and I find it glitches as often as it helps, so I just don't bother with it most of the time. Okay, okay, so we're gonna have the silhouette of Tianara's head is going to actually just lean into frame like this. Right? So we'll close that shape and then add a color, which should be some sort of blue. I'll dial in the color here in a second. So, oh yeah, her headdress is actually more of a, yes, there we go. That's more like it. And I guess we could go like this, because it really is a silhouette situation. So we're really doing the same thing I did with Mel, but I don't mind doing it again, because I'm just kind of repeating the motif, if you will. So just 2 frames. Yeah, so boom, boom, and then of course he has dialogue too, so. Yeah, in all reality, this probably should be actually quite dark, with just a little hint of chromaticity. Okay? Cool. So, file, save all, and a sip of my martini. Alright. So, has this been useful? Have you guys learned anything? Or is it just, I'm chewing my olive, by the way. What time is it? About 6 o'clock? Tell you what. Let's smack the shadows in there. So, shadows are going to be a vector level. Hit the B key. Auto close, auto group, auto fill. So let's just get right in there and do her. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 3 duplicates of the basic shadowing. So let's kind of go like this. Okay. So we'll put that in there. Obviously, there's ways that you can mask shadows so that they are clamped to the character's color. In this case, it's just as easy to just draw the shadow carefully, right? So that, okay, so, and then this is really all going to be in shadow, frankly. Now this right here is difficult because I'm about to do two shapes. Because I'm right-handed, I'm covering up what I'm drawing and I can't see whether I got the line tight or not. Flipping the canvas would help as well. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is make it semi-transparent, which usually for shadows, I'm usually about 12, but I'm going to say in this case probably 14. Okay, now that's interesting. Why is the shadow doubling up on itself? Okay, okay. Interesting. Well, we'll ignore that because it actually doesn't really matter. So we'll go with that. And then what I'm going to do is duplicate these. Duplicate. Duplicate. And now on this second and third drawing, I'll go in and add the shadows on the stuff that changes. So we got his arm here. And by the way, when you're doing this, it's not a bad idea to just focus on one section at a time so that you keep in mind how it changes. I've had it happen before where I've introduced inconsistencies by like doing all the shadows at one time, and then you go back to this one small section and there's like a big shadow shape that sort of appears out of nowhere and that type of thing. So you've got to be careful. Careful, I say. Okay. And then here we're just judiciously adding some shadow action. So you can see that the it's kind of weird because the transparency is not in the color, it's in the level. And yet multiple iterations of the color pile up the density of it, which you see here, here, and here. But when it renders, it doesn't do that. Now if you use transparency in the color, like here, instead of in the level, then it would actually render that way. So then you have to be a lot more careful about getting your shading right. Just saying. I'm just saying, people. Okay, so now I'm going to go just get that little smackerel there. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. Little extra there. And sometimes I have to like mentally remember where I started drawing my shape so that I know where to end, where I, that's one thing where Blender is nice. In Blender with the grease pencil, when you draw a filled shape, it actually draws the shape in real time. So you see the shape emerging as you go. Whereas here, we can see the line, but we can't see the shape, right? Blender lets you see the filled shape as you go. Okay, that's working. So now same thing here. I'm going to just do the beard situation, and then this one, it's critical that we take the S key, Control C, Control V, because we can't have the shadow chatter between frames, right? So that means, let's go ahead and get these shadows in here. We're going to have to take all the shadows on this guy's face, really, and copy them into frames 2 and 3. Okay, so there's frame 1. Here, we'll just kind of give some sense of the direction of the light, in that it's kind of going from upper right to lower left, let's say. Okay, that's fine. We're going to have to give this guy dialogue as well, remember. Okay, so S key. Now what I'm going to do is select all the stuff up here, Control C, and then go to this frame and hit Control V. Okay, so now we could actually render this and cut it into the show. Let's do. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this into the show just so I can see how it's flowing. You might as well see as early as possible. So I'm going to jump over to my show edit and checking the comments here, the chat. I always learn something, Joaquin. Thank you. Anything from mechanics to drawing technique. Okay, cool. Cool beans. All right, so here what we're going to do is we're going to go to our project media and we're going to import the image sequence from 091B. And there it is. It's very short. And we're doing 8 frames per second. And we need to skim on down to here, 091B. We'll smack this in there, like right there. And this is just going to auto ripple. So we can slap that in there, get rid of the resampling, and let's see how this flows. Alright, so there he goes. He notices Tianara. There she is, but she hears the guy, looks over, he's begging for money, and then she reacts, and then this shot will be removed. In fact, I'm going to remove it right now. We might as well see how it's going to play. So, and you could argue that there's a little bit of a characterization issue there, costume and characterization. This shot is a cool shot, but I think it's going to actually have to be redone. When I did this shot, I was going through a bit of a phase that I think was, how do I put this? From an artistry and animation cartooning phase, it was a good phase, but in terms of the continuity of the show, I kind of harmed it. So there's some shots that have to be, it's the same with Mel. I mean, this is basically Mel, but then we've got shots over here where his chin goes too narrow. I mean, what are you going to do? I'll load up the Krita files and I'll just make an adjustment, and probably all I'll have to do is just actually add a shape, like right here, to just patch over that and fix it. It's not a big problem, but it is a problem. So same thing with Tianara here. And frankly, there's a good argument to be made that actually this shot is the one that's the problem. So you see from the headdress that the costuming is a little different. I like this better. So, you know, when you talk, I think it was Nagut asked about how things evolve and change. It's usually not the story or the script or the dialogue, but it certainly could be the characterization or the costuming. I mean, let's not be stupid. Obviously, it's good to have all that really, really pinned down before you ever animate anything. But, hey, this is a bit of a work in progress, and that has evolved visually more than probably anything else. Because I spent a year just trying to figure out my animation technique. You know, just trying to learn the craft and learn the tools and blah, 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 blah. So, if we were going to address this now, let's think about this. Let's think about addressing this now. How would we address it? All we really need to do is add another frame, because her eyes are surprised. Okay, let me go to the other screen and make this full screen so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's go. It's good to talk about this. This is the kind of stuff that some people would probably look at this and be horrified. Like, really? That's like, doesn't even look like the same character. I get it. Believe me, I'm well aware. Okay. So right here, she's got this surprised look in her eyes. Okay, so now she looks different here. What really needs to change in this shot is the costume, not the face so much. Okay? Because it just looks too big and baggy on her head or whatever. This shot, What we need to do is actually just add another frame where her eyes go from surprise to the way her eyes normally actually look. Okay? So I think, let's come back. Oh my gosh, you guys, I was on the wrong screen. Oh, it's because I switched to, I'm sorry, I switched to the full screen. So I don't know if you guys were seeing it here. I guess you were, because when I went like this, sorry. Okay, yeah. So when I went like this, you guys were seeing it on the big screen. So that's correct. So yeah, if we change her eyes here and then fix the costuming, I don't like that costuming at all. That shot was done in Blender, and it could be fixed really easily because this animation of Tianara is actually one single drawing mapped to a plane, and all I have to do is deform the plane to fix the shape of the headdress. It shouldn't be hard at all. So what we really need to do is fix our eyes on 091. Okay? So let's do that. Let's dump 091B for the moment and go to 091 and fix the problem. So I'm going to save all. I'm going to save all and give that half a second to save, and then let's go into 091 because all we need to do, this is why I keep talking about a procedural workflow. I've recognized the problem. It should literally take one drawing to fix, and then I just do a re-render and immediately the show all updates. Let's give it a crack. So we go to 191, and what I'm talking about is down here she's got this whoa kind of look, and when she goes like this right here, let's just make a duplicate drawing. Okay, now we can't draw into it directly because it's controlled by the plastic tool and I don't want to bother disconnecting it. So what I'm going to do is just go straight into this drawing right here. This is what needs to be fixed. Okay, and let's think about how to do this. Probably hit the B key. Okay, and now we'll take the V key, switch this to lines and areas so it erases, it literally covers everything. Like that. And we're just going to paint it out. Easy peasy. Okay, now that I don't like right there. There's kind of some nastiness there that we really need to fix with the garment color. So bear with me, and then I'm going to come back and actually chisel out that little bit of flesh tone. Okay. And is her mouth in a separate layer? Hello? Oh, sorry. Come back over here. Okay, and then let's change her expression so that she, tell you what, it seems to me that the thing to do here is just to start clean. I want to erase these eyebrows that are already here so that they're not distracting me from what I'm trying to do. Okay, and now probably something like that is going to do the trick. Let's see what this looks like. Al key. Okay, not bad. The only caveat would be I think I want to move this little animation up north a little bit so that the shot has a little more time to breathe, and we'll delete those and extend this down. So now I should be able to just hit Control-Shift-R and re-render, and if we go back over to the show, what we're probably going to find is now we've imbued Tianara with that slight look of, okay, I guess I need to go to back here since I've got it on full screen preview. That little look of compassion in her eyes. So she's looking around, da 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 da, and then when she goes, huh. Okay, so obviously, the other thing about this other shot that needs to be fixed is that she looks a little too young here. She really looks like a younger person than she is. This is more accurate to who she is, like by far. Um, I think I want to change that. Let's go here. I'm thinking I want to change her mouth there as well. Yeah, I'll just be fluid with it. Close. I think I made it a little too high. Boom. Okay. It's amazing how it's like the kind of the cool thing I like about this stuff is now arguably, unless we're going to change her expression in the next shot. Okay, couple things. First of all, there's a strong debate that should take place whether going from this shot to this shot's a good idea anyway, because it's a pretty brutal jump cut, right? So which overemphasizes the slight change in characterization. But yeah, again, this has to be fixed anyway. But the original framing of the shot was the opposite. So let's go over here, and we'll put this back on auto. So if we go to the original, okay, stop. If we go to the original framing of the show, or editing, I should say, this is what it was before. I literally changed this today, and it's been the same for quite a while. So this is really what we're supposed to be seeing per the script. So he says something. Yeah, this is what we need to do. Because we could get away with, I'm not trying to chimp on quality here, folks, but it is true that we can get away with a little bit more latitude of change, you know, from shot to shot, if there's something to distract your mind between them, right? So to go to that line of dialogue the way it is in the script and then have this is probably good. It's actually better anyway. It's better anyway because after we see Tianara in a close-up, the next thing we should see is Mel reacting to her, and you can see he's blushing. So I think that's the plan. So we'll do that. So this shot definitely does need to be fixed up, though. But I like the flow. I do like the flow here. So let's go back just a little bit. So he sees Luka for the first time. It's the first time Luka appears in the show. So now we're meeting Luka and Monkey for the first time. And I need to make Mel's mouth not so black, by the way. Just for the record, make a mental note. So then he sees Tianara. There she is in the distance. That should probably push in, right? Okay, so yeah, this shot should push in. Let's do that right now. Just hit shift and just push in a little bit. So this has a little bit more of a fanciful feeling to it. And then I like the way you're pushing in here. And then it flows nicely into that shot because our head flows into it just like that. So you see how that feels? It's like this little bit of drama with the push, and then yes, that's so much better. The editing is definitely better there. And then this shot, we just need to make her look a little older and fix her garment. So I like it. I like it. I think that's a good place to stop for today. So with that, I will, I think, wrap it up. And we've made good progress. We got this shot fixed. We got the blind man shot done with no background. We have to put the background in. So this needs to be saved. So we'll save that shot. See how easy it was to fix that? And it's because I'm not thinking like an animator. I'm thinking like a storyteller. I'm thinking like an editor. You know, what do we want to feel? And what was missing was that transition to a look of compassion, which also solved the characterization problem. That's really how Tianara's eyes normally are supposed to look anyway. You know, but she was a little taken aback by the blind man. You know, she's sort of taking in this situation, and she's a good person, so she then wants to carry out an act of compassion, which she does. Give the blind man some coins, And then, of course, her mother scolds her for it. Because her mother is well, we can't say on kid-friendly YouTube channels, which technically this isn't, but what her mother is. But her mother's not a good person. Okay, so that's it. We're done. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. And as you guys know, it has been a wonderful almost hour and a half. And hey, I hope it's been fun. There will be more later.